Alrighty, so today I want to go over some community interaction that I decided that I felt like doing today. It's kind of just like a little bit of slow things going on for Dokkan. We are sort of in the eye of the storm with a whole lot of stuff that's going to be coming up soon. So for this video, I decided, hey, let me sort of ask what you guys are thinking about the game right now. I was kind of thinking like, hey, maybe ask some questions, but I was like, let me sort of, rather than giving advice, I just want to see what you guys are thinking about the game, right? My perspective, not only from a content creation standpoint, but also from an audience standpoint, is a lot of newer players, returning players, guys who've been playing the game for a while. And I feel like a lot of people that watch my videos are players that are looking for advice and stuff like that. So I thought it would be kind of fun to ask them, what is your favorite thing about Dokkan right now and your least favorite thing about Dokkan right now? And I sort of just wanted to see what you guys were saying, right? We got a few comments on here, and we'll be able to probably go through all of them, talk about them for a little bit. This will be a bit of a longer sort of discussion video. You don't really have to have anything going on the video. You can watch it if you'd like, but we'll just be reading out the comments so that way you guys can sort of keep them on your other monitor, all of that fun stuff. Just see it as like a podcast, if you will, right? So again, I said, hey everyone, today I want a community interaction video, so I'm going to ask you the following question. What is your favorite and least favorite thing about Dokkan as it stands right now? Leave a comment below for a chance to be featured in the video, and a good chance I'll be able to read all of them. So you can see I just attached a picture of Goku. It's just to get people, I think, with community posts, it's just better if there's an image there. It's just sort of how the system works. So we ended up getting 35 comments here. We'll read the names unless they're inappropriate, right? So this one comes from Jasper Jr., and his favorite thing about Dokkan right now is the wide range of units, teams, stages, etc. And his least favorite thing is feast or famine with content. And I think that that's fair from sort of what you like and what you don't like about the game. But I will say I feel like there's more to talk about with your least favorite thing than there is with your favorite thing. I would definitely agree that the vast variety of units in Dokkan has always been one of its strengths, the ability to just see everything from different moments of the series, different sagas, arcs, movies, stuff like that. You can use teams of different themes, right? Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3s, God Key, all of that fun stuff. All over the place, right? The range for Dokkan is very high. But when it comes to feast or famine with content, I definitely can understand that perspective, where I feel like a lot of players feel like you play for the anniversary, you do all those events, you get all those big stones and stuff like that, and then you get outside of like Golden Week, you get outside of Saiyan Day, and there's those breaks in between where there's just not much to do. Now, I'm sure, as you guys know, I cover Dokkan every day, so when there are dry periods like this, I do have to think outside the box a little bit in terms of videos and stuff like that. But just as from the sense of a player, it's like, okay, all there is to do this week is Extreme Super Battle Road. I clear it the minute it comes out, and then there's nothing to do for 6 days, right? Where sometimes content is spaced out and there's enough to do for a week, right? Because I know a lot of people, this is definitely something that I've had a bad habit of complaining there's nothing to do. But when they drop a week's worth of content, I sit here at this desk for 6 hours doing everything there is to do, farming up the characters, doing all the difficult events, recording the videos, editing the videos, uploading them, doing all of that fun stuff. And with that, it kind of leads to this point where there's just nothing to do because I ate the feast of content that they gave us. Now I have to play for the next 10 days, just link leveling, doing the Roshi event, just kind of going through the motions. So I can definitely understand that there are periods in the year where there's drier periods, right? Like kind of like May. November is a bit slow until we get to about the end of it. Whenever we get out of the worldwide download celebration, in between Tanabata and the worldwide celebration in previous years on JP, right? Global goes for a pretty dry stretch, especially after about Christmas and New Year's, where it's like you have Saiyan Day and Golden Week, but in between that, there's not much going on all the way until you get to the global anniversary, which is in July. And then obviously with this year, the schedule has changed considerably, so those things are not going to be the same as they were in the past. So feast or famine with content, definitely understand that. But what I would suggest, I guess, if you want to sort of feel like it's less famine with content, is just do it slow, right? Deliberately go out of your way to not get everything done at once. Because that way you just won't feel like you're rushing it, where it's like you could just commit yourself to doing like one thing on the game a day, and that's easier said than done. It's like saving dragon stones. Like it's very easy to say I'll save till global anniversary, and then before you know it, a nice banner comes out and you don't have any stones, right? It's all about discipline. So I think that could be something, because just the way that we've seen things with content over the years is just, it's just their way of doing things, right? Everything seems to drop in batches rather than just slowly over time. I will say that they have made improvements to that, like the Extreme Super Battle Road stage. It used to, or stages and Super Battle Road stages, if you guys don't know, years ago, they used to drop in batches of 10, and now they just drop periodically with certain stages. So, or with certain celebrations, excuse me. So that is sort of how they go. But thank you, Jasper. I do appreciate that. Good little perspective there. Feast or famine with content. Okay, so next up we have Sayonara TDM, and I'm a free-to-play for 6-7 years, and the new ticket missions to summon on the new banner and get a chance to obtain a new unit is amazing. I got the 2 previous side banner units that way. The thing that I don't like, and a lot of people have the same opinion as a free-to-play, is if you play for a long time like me, you don't have a lot of content left to get Dragonstones, and a more recent view is the lack of content, but it's just a phase IMO. So I'll sort of divide this into 2 sections, because I just talked a lot about content with Sayonara, and that's with Jasper's comment, but definitely understand the perspective of just not a lot of things to do, especially when you get to the end game. If you're free to play, especially when it comes to stones, you are sort of at the mercy of the devs, and that's why I always preach that you guys need to be disciplined with where you are summoning, because if you're not, then again, you're always going to feel like you have no stones. So we'll just kind of leave it at that, and I appreciate that, Sayonara. But yes, the new changes that they've added with special Dokkan Day, with special tickets, has made the game a lot better, and it makes it a lot easier to save Dragonstones, so that way the content you're just doing is just a play, rather than you're only doing this for the purpose of obtaining the Dragonstones because you absolutely need them to summon on the next banner. Right, and being free to play for 6 to 7 years, I think that's a good process. I've been playing Dokkan on and off since about 2019, so around the same time frame as this guy. And yeah, this is definitely one of the better changes. I found myself pulling LR Kale and Caulifla with the tickets, and then I also got General Blue with the tickets on for JP. So it's definitely a nice change. I like that the game is getting more generous with the way that they are giving things out, and I think that that's directly due to competition, not just within Dragon Ball gachas. We all know how Dragon Ball Legends is. Successful game, right? Very successful. Dragon Ball Legends is in its 7th year, but just outside of other gacha games, or outside of Dragon Ball games, right? You think about like Hoyoverse games, like Genshin Impact and stuff like that. Extremely successful products that a lot of people like to play, and the generosity that I kind of see there is the way that they do their summon system, where, and this is mainly just coming from friend perspective, I'm not really into those games, but like this, the 50-50 system, where if you lose 50-50, you're guaranteed to win the next one. I think that that's very important, because it's like, why would I put money into Dokkan when there's no way to guarantee the character, where if I play Genshin and spend money, there is technically a way for me to obtain this character with the 50-50 system. So I think that's why the game had to kind of step things up a bit, right? Why keep people playing Dokkan? What's a way to keep people playing? Giving them the characters that they want, right? So that is definitely something I think that is extremely valuable, and it makes it really easy to grind, and a lot easier to grind the game, knowing that you can build your stones up and just summon for characters that you may not have summoned for in the past with tickets. So I think that's a really good change. Definitely one of the better things of 2025 that's come from Dokkan so far. So thank you, Sayonara, for the comment. Let's go ahead and move on. This one comes from Laszlo. I've been playing for a while, since I was like 11. Wow. Funny enough, I started playing Dokkan basically when I was 20. So it's crazy how things work, right? But my favorite thing is definitely pulling those crazy summon animations. So like Zenos, Whis, Goku Black Rifts. Honestly, like, yeah, I hear you, but I want like consistent new animations, and we've seen that this year, right? With Super Shenron and the new cut-ins when you fly in and stuff like that. So yeah, like, I'm glad they've updated that, but the hype summon animations, the Goku Black Rifts, the Zenos, the Whis, right, the Super Shenrons, super exciting stuff. My least favorite thing has to be the super attack animations. They're so long, even sped up, leaving battles varying from a casual 5-minute fight to a 4-hour run because of these multi-super. I feel like you're being a little dramatic with the way that you're doing things there, but I definitely can see the inconvenience of a long super attack animation, even sped up when you're trying to grind something, but that's why you got to consider it. It's like, oh, I'm doing Dokkan Awakening medals. Maybe I should use Super Easy A characters or the free-to-play Ginyu Force team. So that way you can get through it quicker because the animations aren't as long. But the thing is, if the animations were the same thing that they were from day one, just with higher numbers, the game would have already been dead, right? One of the biggest appeals to Dokkan is, what's ironic is the comment under this, but what's one of the biggest selling points of Dokkan in the modern era is just how good the super attacks look, right? How they feel straight out of Dragon Ball. And I think that that's really important to keep in mind because without that, the game would have like it just wouldn't feel the same, right? If we were in year 10 with like year 1 animations, the game wouldn't have made it this far. And I always am able to appreciate the sheer improvement in quality of the animations with how we've kind of just gone straight out of the show, straight out of the movie, straight out of the series, right? With manga references, video game references, show references, right? Filler references, even I said video game with Kakarot and stuff like that, right? So I'll always appreciate that. And most of the time, like, just because super attacks are long, it's like, I would rather deal with long super attack animations than only look at bad ones. But that's just my opinion. If you think it's too slow, I completely get that. But I appreciate the feedback, right? It's always, it can be frustrating for sure when you're just like, I think really the biggest example of this, and a lot of you probably know where I'm going with this, but is AGL Super Saiyan 3 into Super Saiyan 4 Goku, where you have this really long transformation animation that you have to sit through where Goku, you know, sees Pan and puts his hand out and all that fun stuff. And it's like, yeah, this is great, but I have to see it every time. So definitely something that can be frustrating. This next one comes from Seti Does Dokkan. My favorite thing, the super attack animations. Yep. Least favorite thing is the space it takes. Yes, I understand that to a degree. And I always want to be like conscious of the devices that people have. And I think the answer of just saying like, go get a better phone is just not the perspective that I would want to have, right? I just think that's kind of ignorant because I don't know everybody's situation. But at least the game, it's sometimes I think that the nicest perspective that I can have with that is that at some point it's like, when is your phone just too outdated, right? And when does the phone just absolutely just need to have more space? It can be frustrating that you can't download other things if you want to play Dokkan, but Dokkan is like, the only way that like Dokkan is going to improve is if the visuals get better and the characters feel more immersive and the quality of the game goes up. And if they have to bottleneck that because of device requirements, things can get a little bit tricky, right? We've seen that in the past with PlayStation games, Xbox games, all of these other things where, look at like one of the most jarring examples I can think of is Call of Duty Black Ops 3. And if you guys remember this in 2015, if you looked at Black Ops 3 on the Xbox One compared to what it looked like on the 360, it was night and day. And eventually, if we were to get to that point where it's like, you know, you're running a phone on iOS 11 when we're on iOS 18 or 19 or whatever it is, it's just like, at what point do we just have to say like, we're sorry, but if you're running on iOS 11, then you're probably not going to be able to play the game. And it's like, it's tough, right? Because I don't want to just be like to sit there and say like, no, you can't play the game because of this. But if the game is going to progress, then sometimes I think that's the sacrifice that they have to make. But if you want some good news, I was running Dokkan pretty well on a phone that was 5 years old for a pretty long time. So can't really complain, right? Like, not saying like you can't complain, but I was running an iPhone 11 for Dokkan for a pretty long time until the summer of 2024, where I upgraded to a 15. So I had a phone that was multiple years old and it still ran the game just fine. But again, this is more about the space, but just kind of a little bit of a tangent, right? But that's what this video is kind of about, just something to listen to. So the space definitely can be frustrating, but hopefully it doesn't get too obnoxious, right? It's just the way things go these days, right? Phones are starting to get bigger and bigger, where it's almost like the requirement. I remember when phones used to have like 16 gigabytes of storage, right? These days we're talking terabytes, 500 megabytes, like storage and stuff like that. So, or if I said megabytes, I meant to say gigabytes, but you know, phones are getting big. I mean, that's really all I can say. But thank you for the comment. I appreciate it. Yusufka, what do we got? As a new player, it's amazing to have so much content to work on, and every time I pull some characters, I'm occupied with Dokkan Awakening, so it doesn't get too boring with all the things you can do in this game. Yes, being a new player is very nice in a gacha game. At the same time, I wish the UI would be a little more player-friendly. It's easy to have an overview of the standard events and stuff, but it's really exhausting if you don't know better and always have to search for specific content. I think in some ways they have made it a bit easier for you to access where you need to be at times, but yeah, it's overwhelming, right? I think in Iron Cane / Truth's Beginner Guide, the first episode was just dedicated to the menus. And that's always like a tough part for me to do in the beginner guide, because I start like talking about menus and before you know it, the video is like 45 minutes long, right? But yeah, sometimes I think it is a little bit confusing. But there's always ways that you can find access to what you need, especially if you're looking to progress your characters. I would recommend looking at the Guru's Guide section of the game. That's always been really helpful for me in finding what I need. When I'm on the global account, on JP, it's a little different because I can't read the game. But yeah, I would definitely agree. It just kind of takes muscle memory at some point, right? Like, especially on JP, I'm not really thinking about what I'm pressing anymore. It's like I kind of know what I'm doing, holding down on a character, pressing this button, pressing that button, knowing exactly what it does. Sometimes it takes a little bit of trial and error to figure something out. I have to screenshot a mission so I can translate it and stuff like that, but nothing too crazy. But yeah, I think that there's definitely some validity to the menus being a little bit more player friendly. But again, they have tried to make improvements with that in the past. So I definitely think as more and more time goes on, it's going to be more and more new player friendly. But yes, for sure, I think especially if you're like a newer player or a returning player, it's almost overwhelming with how much stuff there is to do and stay occupied with. But when you are in endgame, it's like the happy medium. It's tough to find. So I appreciate the comment. My favorite thing, this comes from YouTube King. Shout out to him. He's the YouTube King. My favorite thing is the free-to-play aspect. They give a good amount of free stones for summons. I was able to get all but one of last year's anniversary units. Very nice. My least favorite is the box space. Should be able to have more characters without having to sell them or buy more with stones. Typically, ranking up is one of the better ways that I've found to kind of deal with box space problems, especially when Dokkan Day is around. Hopping on that and doing the time chamber event over and over is really going to help you with ranking up. But yeah, at some point, it's like with box space, you just have to stay on top of it if you're dealing with issues, right? Especially if you're somebody who's summoning a lot. I've kind of like I used to have box space issues like years ago, but now it's like I usually have enough where I can summon for a lot of characters and not have to worry about it. But also it's like if you're not summoning in like mass amounts, you should be okay with that. But yeah, box space, it's really, I feel like only an issue when you get towards the end game and you literally are saving like everything, right? Like you're saving SSRs of LRs, TURs of LRs. But yeah, at the beginning, I could see it being a little bit of issue. I would just say like maybe slow down with your summons. That would probably be the best advice I could give you. But yeah, it sounds like you did all right with your anniversary, just missing one character that's pretty good out of 6. But yeah, the free-to-play aspect, I think this game has definitely gotten better with in the past. At the end of the day, it is a gacha game. They are trying to get you to spend your money, but if you are disciplined, there's definitely ways around that for sure. So thank you. All right, what do we got? This comes from Craig. I've been playing since day one, but the one thing I've always hated is the World Tournament. Yeah, everybody does. And to be honest, my favorite thing over this time has just been the team building and how the game animations have evolved over the 10 years. Yeah, me too, man. I talked about this a little bit earlier where I felt that animation quality and stepping up has always been one of the most important things in order to keep this game going. Just making things look more and more close to the source material, making it look even better than the source material at times. When they invent new Dokkan original animations and they have characters doing different things, right? You think about like Vegito Blue with the double spirit sword that he did there for a little bit. Gogeta Blue with some of the stuff that he did, like a Final Flash in his year 10 animation, right? It's just, that's how you kind of keep the game going and seeing the progress of it, right? Go look at year 1 Super Gogeta, go look at year 10 Super Gogeta. Look at physical Gogeta Blue compared to 5-year Gogeta Blue, right? You can tell the difference in quality. And even if, right, like the 5-year LR still have some of the better animations in the game with their active skills, right? But you can still go look at their modern counterparts like AGL Vegito Blue and physical Gogeta Blue, and you can just see the quality step up, right? It's always going to be there. And yeah, I appreciate you saying World Tournament. I think World Tournament, like the easiest fix to me would just be, there's 2 main things, and this is like us saying like just to, I'm trying to, what's like an easy thing, right? It's like to fix a hole, put sand in it, right? Like this is so obvious. Like to fix World Tournament, A, get rid of the board, or make the board auto so we don't have to play with it, or B, get rid of the prelims. And if you get rid of the prelims, so much time is saved just not doing nonsense. So that would definitely be how I would fix it. And I'm sure that's sort of a lot of people's thought as well. So favorite thing, thank you, Craig. I appreciate that. This one comes from Anti, I don't know how to say that, but thank you. Favorite thing is how generous Dokkan has become with ticket stones and characters in the Baba Shop. Definitely has been a step up over the years. It is pretty much impossible to get 100% shafted as long as you are smart with your stones. Yeah. That's always something that I emphasize, right? Where I don't really say like it's impossible to get shafted because then one person does, and then they view it on me as like this guy is less credible. He lied to me, right? But yeah, I think that there's definitely ways to work around it, right? Especially with pity these days, with that pity system on major banners like Anniversary, like Worldwide Download Celebration, now Global Dokkan Campaign. There's always going to be ways to make sure that you get what you want. And can you get unlucky and it takes more than you would bargain for? Absolutely. Can you go out of a major celebration missing an LR? For sure. But is there almost not a guarantee, but a very good chance that you pull what you want if you go into a celebration with 1,500 stones and everything else? Absolutely. So that's why being disciplined with your stones, and I'm always emphasizing for you guys to skip these banners, is so important, right? Don't summon for Tau if you don't have to, or if you don't want to, right? If you're just summoning for the sake of summoning, I just don't think that's smart. So yeah, like Anti says, right? If you are disciplined and smart with your stones, and I try to emphasize it, I don't do it myself because I'm bad at it, but I try and make sure I'm putting out the best advice for you guys. If you are being smart with your stones, then like he said, it's very hard for you to get shafted on major celebrations. What I don't like is that we barely get any missions for hard content with updates. I don't care if the missions are pretty much impossible. Just give us some more challenging missions and be creative. Team cost limit, time limit, item limits, type restrictions, niche categories, 6 specific named characters, buff boss missions like burst mode. I think that's a slippery slope, because at least on the social media aspect of things, because when they make missions too hard or impossible, they garner a reputation, but then they also just complain, or we also just complain that it's limited, right? Team cost limit, I think, is fun, but you're basically just saying you just want burst mode for everything, in my opinion. That's kind of sort of how I'm interpreting this. But 6 specific named characters, I just don't think that there are enough variations of characters outside of the very common names, the Piccolos, the Vegetas, the Gokus, the Gohans, right? There's not 6 usable Videls in Dokkan right now. There's not 6 usable Mr. Satans in Dokkan right now, right? And I think it would just get a little bit out of hand, but I do agree that that would be fun, even if they are impossible. But the thing is if you make that mission, then the game has to be conscious of that and then release things for it, right? They wouldn't have done the Universe 11 mission for the Goku and Frieza fight if they didn't plan on dropping a Jiren, right? If they did like a clear with 6 Gotenks on the team, right? Like that would mean that another Gotenks buff is coming, or we're getting a new Gotenks, right? So it would make things a little bit more predictable for how summons are going to go, how banners are going to be released. And it would also sort of just put them in a spot where designing the content would just be a little bit trickier. But I do agree, like, I always had a good time when the Vegeta event would get like batches of new category missions and stuff like that, just because it would just give us something to do, right? It would be like, oh, okay, it's time to go grind LVE and try all the different category missions. Oh my God, this Worthy Rival one is taking 35 turns. This is really hard. This Piccolo and Nail rotation is stacked up like crazy, right? At the time, this was crazy, but they're like, they have 2 million defense, like nothing can hurt them, right? So it's just sort of how the game has went over the years. But yeah, I mean, you're not going to hear me saying like, don't do this. It would just... There's got to be the happy medium to find where it's like, maybe we're just getting consistent category missions, but I think some of this is just is a little bit too restrictive, but I do kind of like the idea, right? Like running, and they have done that in the past where they've done special missions where like you, recently, you had to fight a tech boss and you had to run a mono AGL team. I think it was the Seriously Serious fight against that blue Goku. So they have tried things like that, and I think they have experimented with it a bit. I can definitely get behind the notion of wanting more of it though, so I do appreciate it. I definitely see where you're coming from with that. All right, next up, this is so ironic how these comments are spaced, aren't they? Favorite thing, OSTs, not too much to talk about there. Love OSTs, a lot of Janemba ones that I really like. And this one comes from Ollie Skies, thank you. Least favorite has to be category missions. I like category missions, I think they're fun. And I think that it forces you to think outside the box sometimes. And it's like a character that might not have top 10 appeal is going to be good for this mission. And that is where characters gain value. So I'm a fan of them, but I'm sure it's like, I'm not going to assume you're standing in Dokkan right now, but maybe this is coming from somebody who just doesn't have a lot of his teams fleshed out yet, and it's going to be tricky. But sometimes they're always going to be tricky, even if you are an endgame player. So I really like category missions, but to each their own. I could definitely understand the frustration if you don't have the characters that you need. Let's see. This next one comes from, this one's tough to read. I'm gonna I'm not even gonna try that one. That's a tough one. As someone who started all the way back in 2016, favorite thing, the general smooth gameplay, use of strategy, visuals, and music. I like the specifics here. Getting to use my favorite characters from the series, decoration of profile. Yeah, that's a really cool, underrated aspect. You get to do a lot of stuff. Least favorite thing, Peppy Gals category, not being called the girls category. Yes, I really agree with this one actually, because they're putting themselves into a corner where it's like, oh, this is a girl, but it's not a peppy gal, right? And so it really should just be the girls category, right? I completely agree with this one for sure. And then the current Whis event and the wonky friend system. The friend system, they're just never going to fix. That's sort of just kind of where I'm at with that. And the Whis event, it's just, it takes too much stamina. That's really my only problem with it. It should be giving more orbs than it's giving, or more link skill orbs, and it should be less stamina, right? I don't think they need to completely redo. Yeah, I guess they do need to completely revamp it. Where I believe that they said they're doing something with that. I think we talked about that today on the Slot One Super podcast. But yeah, the Whis event definitely needs a change from what we have right now, and I would agree with this completely. The wonky Fred system always been an issue. They've tried with that, but it's always the answer is always going to be the same. By the way, just duplicate your friend system, your leader with friend points, right? Because up until this year on JP, we literally never had a reason to use our friend points, right? I think I stacked up about 7 million of them and was finally able to burn through them this year. And let me tell you, that was not fun. That took a long time. And it's just because there's just nothing to use the friend points for outside of that. And so definitely a bit of a system issue. But yeah, I appreciate that. I think that there's a lot of good things to talk about here, right? The general smooth gameplay. Yeah, gameplay does feel pretty smooth, especially with the quality improvements they've done with the Dokkan 2 update, we'll call it. The strategy, yeah, you know, thinking about how you need to do things, because it looks like Candy Crush on the surface, but there really is a lot going into a difficult Dokkan run, and I think that that's fun. I think it makes for at least it leaves for a lot of different strategies that you can use, types of characters you can use, different approaches to every different fight. It's a lot more vast, but it's very hard to explain that to somebody without like confusing them. I think that that's kind of where it comes from. But for someone that knows how to play, it's definitely a very fun system. So yeah, I think that this comment's really good. There's a lot of fun stuff in here, and I like your least favorite thing being the Pepe Gals thing. That's definitely understandable, where you're just limiting units off the category for no reason. So thank you again. We'll call you C. Thank you. I appreciate that. I love the new Dokkan special days. Yeah, we talked about that, as they give people a reason to play at least twice a month and give people free summons from the tickets. I hate the free-to-play EZA areas and how you have to have multiple vegan units. I don't know what you mean by that. Vegeta units? I don't know. That's got to be a typo, right? Sometimes Rainbow didn't fully EZAs to even attempt the damn stage. Yeah, EZA areas sucked, and I'm definitely glad that they're kind of getting away from those as of recent. I don't remember the last time I had to do one that I wasn't caught up with. So it's definitely like, I like that it gives you like ways to buff characters, but it's also just a way for them to not do an extreme Z battle. And that kind of sucks, because that's like a really easy way to get stones. But yeah, definitely not a fan of those. And this is something that I'm sure a lot of players can resonate with. It's like getting the power level bonus for the awakening medals on this run that you don't need it, but you always get the question mark for the last run that you need, or you get the question mark for the wrong one that you need. So yeah, EZA area is definitely not very good. My positives, the grinding. I love grinding in games. Me too. It gives a purpose, and the new tickets for summons you get are nice for sure. My negatives. I started playing again after 6 years, so I don't know all the units, so I wish there would be more filter options like Dokkan Festival exclusive, Yellow Coin LR, free-to-play, etc. Now, okay, I think that there's multiple layers to this. Technically, it's not the best filter system in the world, but you could filter your box by cost. Do they still even do that? Because team cost limit doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, cost is still there. So you would filter your item binder by cost. And I think that would kind of help you, because like free-to-play LRs are 99, right? LRs are 77, TURs are 77. It does kind of help you filter that out a little bit. It's not perfect, but that is sort of a way to do it. But yeah, I think that definitely can make sense. I think that like the Dokkan's way of helping you with that is giving you unique pop-ups for those types of characters, right? Where if you pull a Dokkan Fest exclusive, they give you the Dokkan Fest exclusive pop-up, right? Or then the other one, right, being like the LR, that's always been there. So I think that that's definitely a way to do it. But yeah, the grind for me is definitely something that I like. Like even when I play other games, like sometimes I'll play like an ultimate team mode for Madden, or like I don't play FIFA, but like 2K or something like that, right? The grinding aspect of it is almost more fun than actually like playing against other people, right? Like that's sort of kind of where I lie with my gaming, right? Like with Xenoverse 2, I like to grind really more than I like to fight other players. I've played enough PvP in Xenoverse in my life to know fighting people online kind of sucks when you're just getting cheesed by meta. But yeah, the grind is always something fun. But you know, it is what it is. So I definitely would agree with that for sure. And the last comment came from 95 Dogs. I forgot to mention it, sorry. And this one came from Lindians. So thank you very much. Appreciate the comments. All right. So, R-Man, my favorite thing right now is the ticket missions. It's great to give people a taste of the banner and help me see all the SRs I'd get in draws, multis. Really helps pack down the hype to spend stones. That's definitely the purpose, right? Least favorite, it's tied for 2. World Tournament and Petan Battle. World Tournament is just a slog that takes way too much stamina and time. Petan Battle is just boring. Both modes I don't enjoy interacting with. Well, the beautiful thing about this, R-Man, in this case, is you don't have to play either if you don't want to. The rewards from World Tournament, I would definitely say you're missing out on a lot more than Petan, but you are not like destroying your account value if you're not playing Petan, right? I know a lot of people that don't play it. And my other counter to that is that Petan, it's a bit like kind of confusing to set up if you don't know what you're doing, but it's also, at least you don't have to like sit on there and grind it for hours, right? You just got to hop on, put the stickers in the fight, and then just forget it exists, right? But not liking interacting with the mode, I completely understand that perspective, right? And, you know, we've talked a lot about the Dokkan Day summons and stuff like that. Very good way just to give players something that they would, just free summons, right? Free summons are always nice in a gacha game, so I do appreciate that. This is the next part of the comment. Overall, my favorite thing about Dokkan is that nothing goes away and it's not competitive, being single player, right? Story events and EZAs cycle back regularly, and they've been trying to change that recently too. If you can't wait, then there are keys to earn and use to run them. Yep. There's no clan / guild / clubs, etc. to be in, pressure to join and compete. Dokkan is low pressure, low commitment, and at your own pace. Yes, that is one of definitely the biggest appeals that I give to people if they are thinking about picking up the game, right? Sometimes a gacha game or a competitive game or a PvP game can be very hard to keep up with because you're at a pace, right? Because you're going to have to deal with other players who are at that pace. So if you, I always keep coming back to it. I've been playing a lot of Legends lately, all right? It's the anniversary, but with Legends, right? If you are not keeping up and your team is 3 years old, you just cannot compete. You're just dealing with a lot of players who are up to date and they have all the newest stuff. And if your stuff is way out of date, it's just going to be very hard for you to keep up. So yeah, that's one thing to Dokkan, right? If you're not endgame in a year, so what, right? It's just single player. You can always go back and keep trying. Can you beat all the hard content right away? No, but there's other content that you can beat to acquire the stones to summon for the characters in order to go beat that hard content at your own pace. So yeah, thank you. That's a really good perspective that I think it's easy to get lost in when you are dealing with like end game players and content creators like myself, right? Where I'm always talking about beating this event and beating that event and how this character isn't good enough because they don't do well in this event, but they might be good for somebody else because they don't need to play that event at that time because this game is being played at its own pace. But again, yeah, I completely agree with that. It's always nice to, especially with a mobile game, a low pressure environment, I think is always nice. So I appreciate the comment. All right, Stark Art 87, a channel member. If you want to join as a channel member, you can click the link in the description. Get early access to Zero to Hero and some other fun things as well. That even 10 years in there, still trying to... That even 10 years in, this is... You need some commas here, man. That even 10 years in, they're still trying new things for all to enjoy. I guess that's his favorite thing. EZAs are at their peak. New units are solid. The game doesn't feel 10 years old. Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, EZAs are at their peak. Yeah, Ginyu would like a word. Let's see. Favorite Dokkan general feel of welcomeness. Yeah, I think that there's, as long as you're not arguing with people on Twitter, but this is, by the way, that's the same thing for every community, right? I always see this on social media where it's always like the Dokkan community, right? It's like, oh, you mean this community on Twitter that's bad? Yeah, that's literally every fan base ever. Right? Like what? I don't know like any popular sort of like almost thing ever that has like a welcoming Twitter environment, right? And there's also a lot of nice people on there that just tweet some silly stuff, right? A lot of these guys that just like to bait on the For You page, right? And do all these things. You talk to them and they're nice people, right? And that's always kind of been how I feel about it, right? But I feel like if you're kind of looking in the right places, there are a lot of people that are willing to help you out and stuff like that when you are new. That's what I try and help. That's one of the purposes of this channel, especially when I sort of shifted my content to more beginner focused stuff. Trying to make you feel welcomed, right? Like you, just because you're new, it's not the end of the world, right? Sometimes it's going to be hard for you to do some events, but there's always going to be a path for you. So just always something to keep in mind. And I like the grind, so I don't really agree with this one, but like Dokkan Awakening sucks, right? Having to play an event 11 times is not really fun, so I definitely hear you on that. That one comes from the Guy Man 2011. Primzik Prisma. My favorite thing is the hard content, and my least favorite thing is having to do 30 auto stages for my EZA stones. Yep, we all get that, right? Hard content is fun because it gives you a place to use your characters, and then having to do 30 auto stages for EZAs, yeah, nobody likes that, right? It's no fun. All right, Tom, and a bunch of numbers. My least favorite thing about Dokkan is not even the game itself. It's the general, yeah, here we go. The general Dokkan community and how negative everything is, or units are deemed mid if they're not Giga broken. My favorite thing about the game, though, is both in how accessible and it is with incredible animations recreating the series I love, plus kick-ass OSTs alongside it. Okay, so we'll kind of digest the first thing where I say this, right? There's absolutely like validity to social media having a more negative tone to a community. And I think Goresh talked about this recently in one of his videos, but negativity is what's more interacted with on social media, right? And that's kind of where things become a bit of an issue, and people like just it's tough, right? But there's also the side of things where when you get new characters or EZAs or newer Dokkan Fest and units are not on the level of characters that are around them, it's disappointing. It's frustrating, right? EZA Ginyu could have been a lot better. Kaioken Blue Goku could have been a lot better, because the fact of the matter is the meta or the best units in the game right now are just Giga broken, right? And so if you're not Giga broken and you're not one of the best units in the game, it's just a disappointing release, and that's okay. These things can happen. It's just disappointing when characters that people are really excited about are not as good as we hope them to be. So I get that, but I think it's just always, you have to remember sometimes that it's not like a community being negative is not exclusive to Dokkan. And I think it's really easy to get wrapped up in that, like thinking it's like, oh, the big bad Dokkan community, when it's really just people on Twitter who are just usually like, a lot of the times, like people that are complaining, or they probably just don't even believe themselves, honestly, in most cases. So just always remember that, right? It's just Twitter. Just because somebody on Twitter doesn't like this unit doesn't mean you don't have to, and stuff like that. So I do appreciate the comment, but just remember that, right? If you can kind of look past the fact that people like to be negative on social media, you'll find a lot of really good people too. So this next one is just a bunch of letters here, but we'll call you SKN. SKN. The animations are the reason why I ever downloaded Dokkan, and it's just my favorite thing about the game. Now, for my least, I guess it would either be messing up important EZAs or the Dokkan Twitter community. Yeah, I just went on a 10-minute tangent about that. So, yeah, messing up important EZAs, for sure. It always sucks when a big EZA that people were expecting to be, like, amazing is not that good. So, definitely agree with that. And animations, we've talked about that as well. So, that's a lot of talk about the community. This community is awesome, right? It's what's built. I've built my channel on the Dokkan Battle community, right? So it's like a lot of great people that I've met and interacted with, and you can't let people complaining on Twitter dictate the whole thing. My favorite thing would be the vast range of characters. Yep, we talked about that. And my least favorite thing in Dokkan, which I think is the biggest problem in Dokkan, would be the combat collecting key spheres. It's just very basic. They need to add a bit of depth there. Other than that, it's an awesome game. Well, just to kind of counter your point there, I think they have added depth, right? With character passives based on the amount of key spheres that you're collecting, where you have active skills now, we have standbys, we have reversible exchanges, characters that are reviving, characters that have giant forms, right? Characters that have ghost ushers, the different things going around, right? That can go on. But the basic gameplay loop is the basic gameplay loop, right? I think that is something that's easy to forget. And I don't think that they really need to change that, because it's been a working formula for them for 10 years now, right? The game's going on its 11th year coming up. So it's just, I think it's fine, but I can definitely understand like the casual perspective of just like, oh, I'm collecting key spheres, but there's so much depth that's going into those collecting those key spheres that I think it makes up for it. So I appreciate the comment, Gaming47, but I'm going to disagree. I am Sharky. Good. The free tickets are amazing for free-to-play players. Yeah, can't really say much more than that. I got 2 towels off of the 28 tickets. Nice. Bad. Here we go. A lot of old and archaic features such as training, leveling up, Z awakening, N and R rarities. You can remove all these things and it won't change a thing besides making the upgrading of units much more standardized. Also ridiculous that all stone banners aren't minimum SR per pull. In 2025, R and N are useless. Yeah, for the most part. But like, just with the way that like gacha games and loot boxes and stuff go, pack trash is always going to be a thing. And they like to, you know, just fill it up with a bunch of junk, and that's usually the way that it goes. But I think that there is some like validity to the awakening system, but there's also like, I think, some fun in evolving your characters and getting them from stage to stage, especially like when you're brand new and you don't really know what's going on. I think it is kind of a badass feeling when you're like you see that you are character and then the big star, right? As somebody who's been playing for a while, it's like it's nothing to you. It's like the first time you see the rainbow star. Pretty cool stuff. So I think that there is some validity to what you're saying though with the process of it. But like, it's just like, I don't know. I just bob my R's every once in a while, right? Or ends get sold or they just get fed into training, right? And you could also see those characters as extra stuff to train your other characters with, right? And just like completely revamping that system might be getting a little bit too far away from the core of what the game is, which is collecting and progressing the characters. But I do think that there is some way that you could be in the middle there and find like a happy medium. So I do appreciate the comment. That is a pretty good one though, Sharky. Thank you. This next one's coming from War Kurai. Sorry if I said that wrong. Right now for me, it has to be Dokkan Day. Yeah, really any mention of Dokkan Day, I think we can just move from. Like, I appreciate it, but we have talked about it a bunch. Great addition, especially if you're free to play, of course. My least favorite thing is not having a lot of content, and tedious grinding makes the game not fun, and link levels are boring. I'm sorry. Yeah, but yeah, Dokkan has improved to me. Yeah, for sure. You can't sit here and tell me that from like 2022 onwards, Dokkan hasn't improved in some regard, right? And not liking the grinding, I'm the opposite way, but there are some tedious things that I 100% am not a fan of. You know, the sort of, you know, the Dokkan Awakening process, not fun. Yeah, link leveling isn't really fun, but it is just a way to progress your account, so that is why we do it. But yeah, so I do appreciate that. Sunny sound bites. What do we got? My favorite thing is seeing the moments from Dragon Ball being animated and usable. My least favorite thing is the grind. Yeah, people don't like the grind, huh? They just want to hop in and get it. I get it, man. I do. All right, what else? EA for the money. Yeah, no kidding. The Elder Kai's not being as abundant as I would hope. Yes and no. I'm sort of a new player, but if I pull too many units in Global Celebration, I might not be able to super attack level 20 all of the LRs. I think the super attack level system should be done away with in some sort. My favorite thing, like others, has to be the free summons, even though I haven't gotten anything from it yet. Yeah, so Elder Kai's is definitely like one of those tricky things, but the best way to work around that is just Dokkaning responsibly and figuring out for each character, can you level up the super attack level in a free-to-play method? And then once you do that, it's good. But I kind of see your point where it's like, why do we even have that system at this point? But really what it is the fact that it's like one of the main cells of the EZA system, where it's like the super attack level goes from 20 to 25, or it goes from 10 to 15. So that's why they keep it around. Demolisher 4467. My favorite is probably all the free tickets and stuff. Yep, and lately I'd like them to keep going with. And my least favorite thing is how slow content comes out at times. I don't see the point in huge lulls. Yeah, it's just their style of doing thing where they drop it in a batch, right? They all do it in a day, and then you got, you know, it's up to you to dictate the pace for it. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about free to play tickets. You guys kind of get the idea. Uxmaset. I don't know how to say that one. Sorry. My favorite thing is probably how I can play the game while doing other things. Yep, the grind, that's one of the big things. My least favorite thing is the difficult content. I have no problem with it, but I just don't like doing it. That's interesting. I feel like that would be like the most fun part about it, is actually like pulling these characters and then testing them, right? But like, I guess if your main thing is like not really paying attention while playing it, then sure, I get that. Atlas, we'll just call you Atlas there. That's a lot on the end. I like the Shinji picture. My favorite thing about, or my favorite thing, yeah, about Dokkan is the different mechanics it offers, but also the unique and cool looking animations. I dislike how they carry hype for anything celebration. I'm just going to talk about the anniversary. I hate how it takes 3 to 4 days to get the character after the reveals. Oh yeah, so he just doesn't like the waiting period. I wish it was like Legends where we get it the day of or the day after that of that reveal. Yeah, I get that. But like, I guess like the system that they have has built the hype and brought like very successful celebrations, so that's why they keep it like that, right? But yeah, I definitely could see the point of like where you get the hype reveal and then you get to use the characters like that night. I completely understand that. Manuel, favorite, cool LRs, least favorite. Truth calling my favorites units bad, or favorite units EZA horrible or bad. Well, I don't want to single out any content creators like Truth, right? Really no benefit in doing that. But like, at the end of the day, if you have fun using a character, don't let somebody else detract from that, right? If Truth doesn't like the character, that's okay, because you might not have the same perspective as somebody like Truth, right? You play the game for a different appeal, you play the game for a different reason, you evaluate a character differently, or you just like the character overall and you're willing to kind of deal with a shortcoming that they may have just because you like the character that much. Not the end of the world, right? I think that that's always something that you have to consider. But the cool LRs, absolutely one of the big selling points of the game these days. Yeah, for sure, Manuel. But just remember that. Just because Truth doesn't like a character doesn't mean that you can't like the character. Always important, right? Don't it's this is just a mindset for anything in life, right? You can't let somebody else's opinion dictate yours. And I do understand, very Truth is very knowledgeable with the game, knows how to play it for sure. But again, if you let his way of thinking dictate how your way of thinking, then you're taking that control and power away from yourself. So just something to consider. Obantis, sorry if I said that wrong. Easy A's, yeah, for sure. I love the way when LR Easy A's got introduced that we only got 10 stages instead of 30. They had a chance to change the TUR Easy A's, but it's still 30 stages. It's such a nuisance to grind. Yeah, lots of good and a lot of bad with Easy A's. Planetary Destruction. We're at 45 minutes here, so we'll probably start moving a little bit quicker. I've been playing since Physical Vegito, the thumbnail of this video, and AGL Rosé since they came out. In that time, I farmed almost every stage and event. I wish there was like a reset or something, or more story. I don't know, something like that. Yeah, you just got to look through it and see if there's anything for you to clear. They'll never reset quests because it's just too many stones for people to have access to. Favorite thing, Red Zone. Least favorite thing, Friend System. Rohit, I definitely would agree. One more thing I hate about Dokkan is way less extreme buffs than Super. Yeah, fact of the matter is, Gokus, Gogetas, Vegetos, they just sell better than villains, man. Just how it is. I really hate the power creep of Dokkan. Every new Annie unit blows old units out of the water, and most new units are contenders for top 10-ish. I feel like units get replaced fairly regularly, then almost have no reason to ever be used until their Easy A rolls around. I wish that all units were balanced better, so when taking on harder content, there is much less of a definite best team with the best units. This is a yes and no type of answer, where the units have to be blowing the characters out of the water, the other characters out of the water, because that's how you get people to summon, right? If Beast Gohan was better than the 10-year anniversary LRs, that would be really disappointing. Because it's like, okay, I just use Beast Gohan to beat everything when there's these brand new shiny Gogeta and Vegetos running around, right? And they're not better by any means. I think that would be a little bit of a problem. And with power creep, it's just how gacha games work, right? How can you get people to summon if the characters aren't just way better than the rest before them? And the Easy A system really helps with that. And sometimes Easy A's end up aging really well, right? AGL UI Goku, you could still run around and use in content in 2025 when it Easy in 2024 and stuff like that. Does it suck sometimes when your favorite characters get replaced or just age out really quickly? Yeah, of course. But I think that that's just the cycle that you have to go with a gacha game like this, where characters are just ever evolving. And I think that that is a bit frustrating, but remember that there's always not going to be one team that you use for every event. It just doesn't work. So just something to think about. What is the best unit in Dokkan right now? A lot of people would tell you Tech Vegito, and I would agree. After playing for years, that comes from Dino. The next one from Xavier. Then we got Soul Shock. After playing for years, I'm bored of watching the same attack animation over and over. I wish there was a skip button. Yeah, I get that. It's just tough because, like, the attacks themselves, like with the animations and stuff like that, it's like, I guess having the option would be nice, but like I don't really mind it because I like seeing the moments themselves and like one of the big points of the characters, but to each their own. Power Stone. For me, I've always loved longer content and hated short content. With short things like SBR, you really never get to see your units fully develop in the fight. I hate seeing Vegito for one turn and then the fight's over. I feel like optimal fight length should be 7 to 15 turns. Anything shorter feels unfulfilling. Well, I think the argument on the other side of that is that people just like to get their stones quickly. But yeah, 7 to 15 turns, I think that's a good happy medium because it's like you said yourself, Super Battle Road, Festival of Battles, you could argue too short. Or not Festival of Battles, Battle Hard, Formidable Foes, too short. Festival of Battles, too long, right? And then finding that happy medium is probably like the newer Red Zones, right? And being able to see your characters build up is definitely important. So I would definitely agree with that. Long content is fun, being able to see your characters actually reach like their full potential, because that's like one of the more fun things about the game. So yeah, I would agree with that. And then last but not least, we have Stardog here. Favorite probably is the music, and the least favorite is the rapid power creep. Unfortunately, that's just how things go with gachas, and the OSTs are pretty badass. So there you guys go. Some community things here, the best and the worst of Dokkan. You guys can let me know as well if you're watching the video. You can go ahead and answer the same question as well. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this longer one. And if you did, don't forget to leave a like before you go. Subscribe if you are new. And I'll see you all in the next one.